Adi Parva, Section 86, Sambhava Parva continued. Vaisampayana said, King Yayati, the son of Nahusha, having thus installed his dear son on the throne, became exceedingly happy, and entered into the woods to lead the life of a hermit. And having lived for some time into the forest for the company of Brahmanas, observing many rigid vows, eating fruits and roots, patiently hearing privations of all sorts, the monarch at last ascended to heaven. And having ascended to heaven, he lived there in bliss. But soon, however, he was hurled down by Indra. And it hath been heard by me, O king, that, though hurled from heaven, Yayati, without reaching the surface of the earth, stayed in the firmament. I have heard that some time after, he again entered the region of the celestials in the company with Vasumat, Ashtaka, Pratardana, and Sivi. Janamejaya said, I desire to hear from thee in detail why Yayati, having first obtained admission into heaven, was hurled therefrom, and why also he gained readmittance. Let all this, O Brahmana, be narrated by thee in the presence of these regenerate rishis. Yayati, Lord of Earth, was indeed like the chief of the celestials, the progenitor of his extensive race of the Kurus. He was of the splendor of the sun. I desire to hear in full the story of his life, both in heaven and on earth, as he was illustrious and of worldwide celebrity and of wonderful achievements. Vaisampayana said, Indeed, I shall recite to thee the excellent story of Yayati's adventures on earth and in heaven. That story is sacred, and destroyeth the sins of those that hear it. King Yayati, the son of Nahusha, having installed his youngest son Puru on the throne, after casting his sons with Yadu for their eldest amongst the Mlechas, entered the forest to lead the life of a hermit. And the king, eating fruits and roots, lived for some time in the forest. Having his mind and passions under complete control, the king gratified by sacrifices the Pitris and the gods, and he poured libations of clarified butter upon the fire according to the rites prescribed for those leading the Vanaprastha mode of life. And the illustrious one entertained guests and strangers with the fruit of the forest and clarified butter, while he himself supported life by gleaning scattered corn seeds. And the king led this sort of life for a full 1,000 years, and observing the vow of silence, and with mind practicing the severest austerities in the midst of the 4 fires, around and the sun overhead. And for 1 full year, living upon air alone and without sleep. And living upon air alone, he stood erect upon 1 leg for 6 months, and the king of sacred deeds ascended to heaven, covering heaven as well as the earth with the fame of his achievements. Section 87. Vaisampayana said, While that king of kings dwelt in heaven, the home of the celestials, he was reverenced by the gods, the Satyas, the Maruts, and the Vasus. Of sacred deeds, the mind under complete control, the monarch used to repair now and then from the abode of the celestials unto the region of Brahman. And it hath been heard by me that he dwelt for a long time in heaven. One day, that best of kings, Yayati, went to Indra, and there, in course of conversation, the Lord of Earth was asked by Indra as follows, Why didst thou say, O king, when thy son Puru took thy decrepitude on earth, and when thou gavest him thy kingdom? Yayati answered, I told him that the whole country between the rivers Ganga and Yamuna was his. That is, indeed, the central region of the earth, while the outlying regions are to be the dominions of thy brothers. I also told him that those without anger were ever superior to those under its sway. Those disposed to forgive were ever superior to the unforgiving. Man is superior to the lower animals. Among men, again, the learned are superior to the unlearned. If wronged, thou shouldst not wrong in return. One's wrath, if disregarded, burneth one's own self. But he that regardeth it not taketh away all the virtues of him that exhibiteth it. Never shouldst thou pain others by cruel speeches. Never subdue thy foes by despicable means, and never utter such scorching and sinful words as may torture others. He that pricketh as if with thorns men by means of hard and cruel words, thou must know, ever carrieth in his mouth the Rakshasas. Prosperity and luck fly away at his very sight. Thou shouldst ever keep the virtuous before thee as thy models. Thou shouldst ever, with retrospective eye, compare thy acts with those of the virtuous. Thou shouldst ever disregard the hard words of the wicked. Thou shouldst ever make the conduct of the wise the model upon which thou art to act thyself. The man, hurt by the arrows of cruel speech hurled from one's lips, weepeth day and night. Indeed, these strike at the core of the body. Therefore, the wise never fling these arrows at others. There is nothing in the three worlds by which thou canst worship and adore the deities better than by kindness, friendship, charity, and sweet speeches unto all. Therefore, shouldst thou always utter words that soothe, and not those that scorch. And thou shouldst regard those that deserve thy regards, and shouldst always give but never beg. Section 88. Vaisampayana said, After this, Indra again asked Yayati, Thou didst retire into the woods, O king, after accomplishing all thy duties. O Yayati, son of Nahusha, I would ask thee to whom thou art equal in ascetic austerities. Yayati answered, O Vasava, I do not, in the matter of ascetic austerities, behold my equal among men, the celestials, the Gandharvas, and the great rishis. Indra then said, O monarch, because thou disregardest those that are superior to thee, thy equals and even thy inferiors, without, in fact, knowing their real merits, thy virtues have suffered diminution, and thou must fall from heaven. Yayati then said, O Shakra, if indeed my virtues have really sustained diminution, and I must on that account fall down from heaven, I desire, O chief of the celestials, that I may at least fall among the virtuous and the honest. Indra replied, O king, thou shalt fall amongst those that are virtuous and wise, and thou shalt acquire also much renown. And after this experience of thine, O Yayati, never again disregard those that are thy superiors, or even thy equals. Vaisampayana continued, Upon this, Yayati fell from the regions of the celestials, and as he was falling, he was beheld by that foremost of royal stages, Ashtaka, the protector of his own religion. Ashtaka, beholding him, inquired, "Who art thou, O youth of a beauty equal to that of Indra, in splendor blazing as the fire, thus falling from on high? Art thou the foremost of sky-ranging bodies, the sun, emerging from dark masses of clouds? Beholding thee falling from the solar course, possessed of immeasurable energy and the splendor of fire or the sun, everyone is curious as to what it is that is so falling, and is, besides, deprived of consciousness. Beholding thee in the path of the celestials, possessed of energy like that of Chakra or Surya or Vishnu, we have approached thee to ascertain the truth. If thou hadst first asked us who we were, we would never have been guilty of the incivility of asking thee first. We now ask thee, who art thou, and why thou approachest hither? Let thy fears be dispelled, let thy woes and afflictions cease. Thou art now in the presence of the virtuous and the wise. Even Chakra himself, the slayer of Vala, cannot here do thee any injury. O thou of the prowess of the chief of the celestials, the wise and the virtuous are the support of their brethren in grief. Here there are none but the wise and virtuous, like thee, assembled together. Therefore, stay thou here in peace. Fire alone hath power to give heat. The earth alone hath power to infuse life into the seed. The sun alone hath power to illuminate everything. So the guest alone hath power to command the virtuous and the wise. Section 89. Yayati said, I am Yayati, the son of Nahusha, and the father of Puru, cast off from the region of the celestials, and of Siddhas and Rishis for having disregarded every creature. I am falling down, my righteousness having sustained diminution. In years I am older than you. Therefore I have not saluted you first. Indeed, the Brahmanas always reverence him who is older in years, or superior in learning or in ascetic merit. Ashtaka then replied, Thou sayest, O monarch, that he who is older in years is worthy of regard, but it is said that he be truly worthy of worship who is superior in learning and ascetic merit. Yayati replied to this, It is said that sin destroyeth the merits of 4 virtuous acts. Vanity containeth the element that which leadeth to hell. The virtuous never follow in the footsteps of the vicious. They act in such a way that their religious merit always increaseth. I myself had great religious merit, but all that, however, is gone. I will scarcely be able to regain it even by my best exertions. Beholding my fate, he that is bent upon achieving his own good will certainly suppress his vanity. He who, having acquired great wealth, performeth meritorious sacrifices, who having acquired all kinds of learning, remaineth humble, and who, having studied the entire Vedas, devoteth himself to asceticism with a heart withdrawn from all mundane enjoyments, goeth to heaven. None should exult in having acquired great wealth. None should be vain for having studied the entire Vedas. In the world, men are of different dispositions. Destiny is supreme. Both power and exertion are all fruitless. Knowing destiny to be all-powerful, the wise, whatever their portions may be, should neither exult nor grieve. When creatures know that their weal and woe are dependent on destiny and not on their own exertion or power, they should neither grieve nor exult, remembering that destiny is all-powerful. The wise should ever live contented, neither grieving at woe nor exulting at weal. When destiny is supreme, both grief and exultation are unbecoming. O Ashtaka, I never suffer myself to be overcome by fear, nor do I ever entertain grief, knowing for certain that I shall be in the world what the great disposer of all hath ordained. Insects and worms, all viparious creatures, vegetable existences, all crawling animals, vermin, the fish in the water, stones, grass, wood, in fact all created things, when they are freed from the effects of their acts, are united with the Supreme Soul. Happiness and misery are both transient. Therefore, O Ashtaka, why should I grieve? We can never know how we are to act in order to avoid misery. Therefore, none should grieve for misery. Possessed of every virtue, King Yayati, who was the maternal grandfather of Ashtaka, while staying in the Welkin at the conclusion of his speech, was again questioned by Ashtaka. The latter said, O King of Kings, tell me in detail of all those regions that thou hast visited and enjoyed, as well as the period for which thou hast enjoyed each. Thou speakest of the precepts of religion, even like the clever masters, acquainted with the acts and sayings of great beings. Yayati replied, I was a great king on earth, owning the whole world for my dominion. Leaving it, I acquired by dint of religious merit many high regions. There I dwelt for a full 1,000 years, and then I attained to a very high region, the abode of Indra, of extraordinary beauty, having 1,000 gates and extending over 100 yojanas all around. There too I dwelt a full 1,000 years, and then attained to a higher region still. That is the region of perfect beatitude, where decay never exists, the region, that of the Creator and the Lord of Earth, so difficult to attainment. There also I dwelt for a full 1,000 years, and then attained to another very high region, that of the God of Gods, Vishnu, where too I had lived in happiness. Indeed, I dwelt in various regions, adorned by all the celestials, and possessed of prowess and splendor equal unto those of the celestials themselves. Capable of assuming any form at will, I lived for 1,000,000 years in the gardens of Nandana, sporting with the apsaras and beholding numberless beautiful trees clad in flowery vesture and sending forth delicious perfume all around. And after many, many years had elapsed, while still residing there in enjoyment of perfect beatitude, the celestial messenger of grim visage one day, in a loud and deep voice, thrice shouted at me, Ruined, ruined, ruined. O lion among kings, this much do I remember. I was then fallen from Nandana, and my religious merits gone, I heard in the skies, O king, the voices of the celestials exclaiming in grief, "Alas, what a misfortune! Yayati, with his religious merits destroyed, though virtuous and of sacred deeds, is falling." And as I was falling, I asked them loudly, "Where, ye celestials, are those wise ones amongst whom I am to fall?" They pointed out to me the sacred sacrificial region belonging to you. Beholding the curls of smoke blackening the atmosphere, and smelling the perfume of clarified butter poured incessantly upon fire, and guided thereby, I am approaching this region of yours, and glad at heart I come amongst you. Section 90. Ashtaka said, "Capable of assuming any form at will, thou hast lived for 1,000,000 years in the gardens of Nandana. For what cause, O foremost of those that flourished in the Krita age, hast thou been compelled to leave the region and come hither?" Yayati answered, "As kinsmen, friends, and relatives forsake in this world those whose wealth disappears, so, in the other world, the celestials, with Indra as their chief, forsake him who hath lost his righteousness." Ashtaka said, "I am extremely anxious to know how in the other world men can lose virtue. Tell me also, O king, what regions are attainable by what courses of action? Thou art acquainted, I know, with the acts and sayings of great beings." Yayati answered, "O pious one, they that speak of their own merits are doomed to suffer the hell called Bhauma. Though really emaciated and lean, they appear to grow on earth in the shape of their sons and grandsons, only to become food for vultures, dogs, and jackals. Therefore, O king, this highly censurable and wicked vice should be repressed. I have now, O king, told thee all. Tell me what more I shall say." Ashtaka said, "When life is destroyeth with age, vultures, peacocks, insects, and worms eat up the human body. Where doth man then reside? How doth he also come back to life? I have never heard of any hell called Bhauma on earth." Yayati answered, "After the dissolution of the body, man, according to his acts, re-entereth the womb of his mother, and stayeth there in an indistinct form, and soon after assuming a distinct and visible shape, reappeareth in the world, and walketh on its surface. This is that earth hell, Bhauma, where he falleth, for he beholdeth not the termination of his existence, and acteth not towards his emancipation. Some dwell for 60,000 years, some for 80,000 years in heaven, and then they fall. And as they fall, they are attacked by certain Rakshasas in the form of sons, grandsons, and other relatives that withdraw their hearts from acting from their own emancipation." Ashtaka asked, "From what sin are beings, when they fall from heaven, attacked by these fierce and sharp-toothed Rakshasas? Why are they not reduced to annihilation? How do they again enter the womb, furnished with senses?" Yayati answered, "After falling down from heaven, the being becometh a subtle substance living in water. This water becometh the semen, whence is the seed of vitality. Thence, entering the mother's womb in the womanly season, it developeth into the embryo, and next into visible life, like the fruit from the flower, entering trees, plants, and other vegetable substances, water, air, earth, and space. That same watery seed of life assumeth the quadrupedal or bipedal form. This is the case with all creatures that you see. Ashtaka said, "Oh, tell me, I ask thee because I have my doubts. Doth a being that hath received a human form enter the womb in its own shape, or in some other? How doth it also acquire its distinct and visible shape, eyes and ears, and consciousness as well? Questioned by me, oh, explain it all. Thou art, O Father, one acquainted with the acts and sayings of great beings." Yayati answered, "According to the merits of one's acts, that being that in a subtle form coheres in the seed that is dropped into the womb is attracted by the atmospheric force for purposes of rebirth. It then developeth there in course of time. First it becomes the embryo, and is next provided with the visible physical organism. Coming out of the womb in due course of time, it becometh conscious of its existence as man, and with his ears becometh sensible of sound, with his eyes of colour and form, with his nose of scent, with his tongue of taste, by his whole body of touch, and by his mind of ideas. It is thus, O Ashtaka, that the gross and visible body developeth from the subtile essence." Ashtaka asked, "After death, the body is burnt or otherwise destroyed. Reduced to nothing upon such dissolution, by what principle is one revived?" Yayati said, "O lion among kings, the person that dies assumes a subtle form, and retaining consciousness of all his acts as in a dream, he enters some other form with a speed quicker than that of air itself. The virtuous attain to a superior, and the vicious to an inferior form of existence. The vicious become worms and insects. I have nothing more to say, O thou of great and pure soul. I have told thee how beings are born after development of embryonic forms, as 4-footed, 6-footed creatures, and others with more feet. What more wilt thou ask me?" Ashtaka said, "How, O Father, do men attain to those superior regions whence there is no return to earthly life? Is it by asceticism or by knowledge? How also can one gradually attain to felicitous regions? Asked by me, oh, answer it in full." Yayati answered, "The wise say that for men there are 7 gates through which admission may be gained into heaven. There are asceticism, benevolence, tranquility of mind, self-command, modesty, simplicity, and kindness to all creatures. The wise also say that a person loseth all these in consequence of vanity. That man who, having acquired knowledge, regardeth himself as learned, and with his learning destroyed the reputation of others, never attaineth to regions of indestructible felicity. That knowledge also doth not make its possessor competent to attain to Brahma. Study, taciturnity, worship before fire, and sacrifices, these 4 remove all fear. When, however, These are mixed with vanity. Instead of removing it, they cause fear. The wise should never exult at receiving honors, nor should they grieve at insults. For it is the wise alone that honor the wise. The wicked never act like the virtuous. I have given away so much. I have performed so many sacrifices. I have studied so much. I observed all these vows. Such vanity is the root of fear. Therefore, thou must not indulge in these feelings. Those learned men who accept as their support the unchangeable, inconceivable Brahma alone, that ever showereth blessings on persons virtuous like thee, enjoy perfect peace here and hereafter. Section 91. Ashtaka said, those cognizant of the Vedas differ in opinion as to how the followers of each of the four modes of life, Grihasthas, Bhikshus, Brahmacharyans, and Vanaprasthas, should conduct themselves in order to acquire religious merit. Yayati answered, these are what a Brahmacharyan must do. While dwelling in the abode of his preceptor, he must receive lessons only when his preceptor summons him to do so. He must attend to the service of his preceptor without waiting for the latter's command. He must rise from his bed before his preceptor riseth, and go to bed after his preceptor hath gone to bed. He must be humble, must have his passions under complete control, must be patient, vigilant, and devoted to studies. It is then only that he can achieve success. It hath been said in the oldest Upanishad that a Grihastha, acquiring wealth by honest means, should perform sacrifices. He should always give something in charity, should perform the rites of hospitality unto all arriving at his abode, and should never use anything without giving a portion thereof to others. A Muni, without search for woods, depending on his own vigor, should abstain from all vicious acts, should give away something in charity, should never inflict pain on any creature. It is then only that he can achieve success. He, indeed, is a true Bhikshu, who doth not support himself by any manual arts, who possesseth numerous accomplishments, who hath his passions under complete control, who is unconnected with worldly concerns, who sleepeth not under the shelter of a householder's roof, who is without wife, and who, going a little way every day, travelleth over a large extent of the country. A learned man should adopt the Vanaprastha mode of life after performance of the necessary rites, when he hath been able to control his appetites for enjoyment and desire of acquiring valuable possessions. When one dieth in the woods while leading the Vanaprastha mode of life, he maketh his ancestors and successors, numbering 10 generations, including himself, mix with the divine essence. Ashtaka asked, how many kinds of munis are there, observers of the vow of silence? Yayati answered, he is, indeed, a muni who, though dwelling in the woods, hath an inhabited place near, or who, though dwelling in an inhabited place, hath the woods near. Ashtaka inquired, what is meant by Muni? Yayati replied, a Muni, withdrawing himself from all worldly objects, liveth in the woods, and though he might never seek to surround himself with those objects that are procurable in an inhabited place, he might yet obtain them all by virtue of his ascetic power. He may truly be said to dwell in the woods, having an inhabited place near to himself. Again, a wise man, withdrawn from all earthly objects, might live in a hamlet leading the life of a hermit. He may never exhibit the pride of family, birth, or learning. Clad in the scantiest robes, he may yet regard himself as attired in the richest vestments. He may rest content with food just enough for the support of life. Such a person, though dwelling in an inhabited place, liveth yet in the woods. The person again, who, with passions under complete control, adopteth the vow of silence, refraining from action and entertaining no desire, achieveth success. Why shouldst thou not, indeed, reverence the man who liveth on clean food, who refraineth from ever injuring others, whose heart is ever pure, who stands in the splendor of ascetic attributes, who is free from the leaden weights of desire, who abstaineth from injury even when sanctioned by religion, emaciated by austerities and reduced in flesh, marrow, and blood, such a one conquereth not only this, but the highest world. And when the Muni sits in yoga meditation, becoming indifferent in happiness and misery, honor and insult, he then leaveth the world and enjoyeth communion with Brahma. When the Muni taketh food like wine and other animals without providing for it beforehand, and without any relish, like a sleeping infant feeding on the mother's lap, then, like the all-pervading spirit, he becometh identified with the whole universe and attaineth salvation. Section 92. Ashtaka asked, "Who amongst these, O king, both exerting constantly like the sun and moon, first attaineth to communion with Brahma? The ascetic or the man of knowledge?" Yayati answered, "The wise, with the help of the Vedas and of knowledge, having ascertained the visible universe to be illusory, instantly realizes the Supreme Spirit as the sole existent independent essence, while they that devote themselves to yoga meditation take time to acquire the same knowledge, for it is by practice alone that these latter divest themselves of the consciousness of quality. Hence, the wise attain to salvation first. Then again, if the person devoted to yoga find not sufficient time in one life to attain success, being led astray by the attractions of the world, in his next life he is benefited by the progress already achieved, for he devoteth himself regretfully to the pursuit of success. But the man of knowledge ever beholdeth the indestructible unity, and is, therefore, though steeped in worldly enjoyments, never affected by them at heart. Therefore, there is nothing to impede his salvation. He, however, who faileth to attain to knowledge, should yet devote himself to piety, as dependent on action, sacrifices, etc. But he that devoteth himself to such piety, moved thereto by desire of salvation, can never achieve success. His sacrifices bear no fruit, and partake of the nature of cruelty. Piety, which is dependent on action that proceedeth not from the desire of fruit, is, in case of such men, yoga itself. Ashtaka said, O king, thou lookest like a young man. Thou art handsome and decked with a celestial garland. Thy splendor is great. Whence dost thou come, and where dost thou go? Whose messenger art thou? Art thou going down into the earth? Yayati said, Fallen from heaven upon the loss of all my religious merits, I am doomed to enter the earth hell. Indeed, I shall go there after I have finished my discourse with you. Even now, the regents of the points of the universe command me to hasten thither. And, O king, I have obtained it as a boon from Indra, that though fall I must upon the earth, yet I should fall amidst the wise and the virtuous. Ye are all wise and virtuous that are assembled here. Ashtaka said, Thou art acquainted with everything. I ask thee, O king, are there any regions for myself to enjoy in heaven or in the firmament? If there be, then thou shalt not fall, though falling. Yayati answered, O king, there are many regions for thee to enjoy in heaven, even as the number of kine and horses on earth, with the animals in the wilderness and on the hills. Ashtaka said, If there are worlds for me to enjoy, as fruits of my religious merits in heaven, O king, I give them all unto thee. Therefore, though falling, thou shalt not fall. O, take thou soon all those, wherever they be, in heaven or in the firmament. Let thy sorrow cease. Yayati answered, O best of kings, a Brahma-knowing Brahmana alone can take in gift, but not one like ourselves. And, O monarch, I myself have given away to Brahmanas as one should. Let no man who is not a Brahmana, and let not the wife of a learned Brahmana ever live in infamy by accepting gifts. While on earth, I ever desired to perform virtuous acts. Having never done so before, how shall I now accept a gift? Pratardana, who was amongst them, asked, O thou of the handsomest form, I am Pratardana by name. I ask thee if there are any worlds for me to enjoy as fruits of my religious merits in heaven or in the firmament. Answer me, thou art acquainted with everything. Yayati said, O king, numberless worlds, full of felicity, effulgent like the solar disk, and where woe can never dwell, await thee. If thou dwellest in each but for 7 days, they would not yet be exhausted. Pratardana said, These then I give unto thee. Therefore, though falling, thou must not fall. Let the worlds that are mine be thine, whether they be in the firmament or heaven. O, soon take them. Let thy woes cease. Yayati answered, O monarch, no king of equal energy should ever desire to receive as gift the religious merits of another king acquired by yoga austerities. And no king who is afflicted with calamity through the fates should, if wise, act in a censurable way. A king keeping his eyes fixed forever on virtue should walk along the path of virtue like myself and, knowing what his duties are, should not act so meanly as thou directest. When others desirous of acquiring religious merits do not accept gifts, how can I do what they themselves do not? On the conclusion of this speech, the best of kings, Yayati, was then addressed by Vasumat in the following words. Section 93. Vasumat said, I am Vasumat, the son of Oshadhaswa. I would ask thee, O king, whether there are any worlds for me to enjoy as fruits of my religious merits in heaven or the firmament. Thou art, O high-souled one, acquainted with all holy regions. Yayati answered, There are as many regions for thee to enjoy in heaven as the number of places in the firmament, the earth, and the 10 points of the universe, illumined by the sun. Vasumat then said, I give them to thee. Let those regions that are for me be thine. Therefore, though falling, thou shalt not fall. If to accept them as gift be improper for thee, then, O monarch, buy them for a straw. Yayati answered, I do not remember having ever bought and sold anything unfairly. This has never been done by other kings. How shall I therefore do it? Vasumat said, If buying them, O king, be regarded by thee as improper, then take them as guilt from me. For myself, I answered that I will never go to those regions that are for me. Let them therefore be thine. Sivi then addressed the king thus, I am Sivi, O king, the son of Usinara. My father, O father, are there in the firmament or in heaven any worlds for me to enjoy? Thou knowest every region that one may enjoy as the fruit of his religious merit. Yayati said, Thou hast never, by speech or in mind, disregarded the honest and the virtuous that applied to thee. There are infinite worlds for thee to enjoy in heaven, all blazing like lightning. Sivi then said, If thou regardest their purchase as improper, I give them to thee. Take them all, O king. I shall never take them, those regions where the wise never feel the least disquiet. Yayati answered, O Sivi, thou hast indeed obtained for thyself, possessed of the prowess of Indra, infinite worlds. But I do not desire to enjoy regions given to me by others. Therefore, I accept not thy gift. Ashtaka then said, O king, each of us have expressed his desire to give thee worlds that each of us has acquired by his religious merits. Thou acceptest them not, but leaving them for thee, we shall descend into the earth hell. Yayati answered, Ye all are truth-loving and wise. Give me that which I deserve. I shall not be able to do what I have never done before. Ashtaka then said, Whose are those 5 golden cars that we see? Do men that repair to these regions of everlasting bliss ride on them? Yayati answered, Those 5 golden cars, displayed in glory and blazing as fire, would indeed carry you to regions of bliss. Ashtaka said, O king, ride on those cars thyself and repair to heaven. We can wait. We follow thee in time. Yayati said, We can now all go together. Indeed, all of us have conquered heaven. Behold, the glorious path to heaven becomes visible. Vaisampayana continued. Then all those excellent monarchs riding in those cars set out for heaven, for gaining admittance into it, illuminating the whole firmament by the glory of their virtues. Then Ashtaka, breaking the silence, asked, I had always thought that Indra was my especial friend, and that I, of all others, should first obtain admittance into heaven. But how is it that Usinada's son, Sivi, hath already left us behind? Yayati answered, This Usinada's son had given all he possessed for attaining to the region of Brahman. Therefore, he is the foremost amongst us. Besides, Sivi's liberality, asceticism, truth, virtue, modesty, forgiveness, amiability, desire of performing good acts have been so great that none can measure to them. Vaisampayana continued. After this, Ashtaka, impelled by curiosity, again asked his maternal grandfather, resembling Indra himself, saying, O king, I ask thee, tell me truly, whence thou art, who thou art, and whose son? Is there any other Brahmana or Kshatriya who hath done what thou didst on earth? Yayati answered, I tell thee truly, I am Yayati, the son of Nahusha and the father of Puru. I was lord of all the earth. Ye are my relatives. I tell thee truly, I am the maternal grandfather of you all. Having conquered the whole earth, I gave clothes to Brahmanas, and also 100 handsome horses fit for sacrificial offering. For such acts of virtue, the gods became propitious to those that performed them. I also gave to Brahmanas this whole earth with her horses and elephants, and kine and gold, all kinds of wealth, along with 100 arbudas of excellent milk cows. Both the earth and the firmament exist owing to my truth and virtue. Fire yet burneth in the world of men owing to my truth and virtue. Never hath a word spoken by me been untrue. It is for this that the wise adore truth, O Ashtaka. I have told thee, Pratardana and Vasumat is truth itself. I know it for certain that the gods and the rishis and all the mansions of the blessed are adorable only because of truth that characterizeth them all. He that will, without malice, duly read unto good Brahmanas his account of our ascension to heaven shall himself attain to the same worlds with us. Vaisampayana continued. It was thus that the illustrious King Yayati, of high achievements, rescued by his collateral descendants, ascended to heaven, leaving the earth and covering the 3 worlds with the fame of his deeds. Hare Krishna.